Hello, my astrology friends and family. This is Lada from AstroladaOfficial here with the October 2022 video horoscopes for each of the 12 signs. And I'm calling October the month of the turning point month. Why is that? Because three planets are turning direction. At the beginning of the month, Mercury is turning direct in Virgo. Later on, Pluto is turning direct in Capricorn. Into towards the end of the month, on the 23rd, Saturn is turning direct in Aquarius, and at the very end of the month, the last 3 days, Mars is turning retrograde in Gemini. Crazy stuff. Why is that? When planets are turning direction, and so many at the same month, within 30 days, 4 planets, guys, are gonna turn direction. It's a pivotal time when events in our life also turn around, when events in the world also start changing. You'll see it will make a big difference this month. And the month ends with a big bang. First starts with Mercury turning direct, Pluto, Saturn, usually planets turning direct lead to things improving or becoming easier, more according to plan, not needing so much effort. So in many areas of your life, in at least 3 or 4 areas of your life, the beginning of the month up to the 20th, 24th, 5th, there will be things that becoming easier gradually, you'll notice. And in the world as well. But at the end, Mars is turning retrograde. This is when things become a bit more complicated for the whole world. And an eclipse. Eclipses always are a bit of a crisis period. And I'm going to talk a quick summary of what this means for the whole world. And then we're going to go into the 12 signs. But before I go, I want to make an announcement that we're making a big discount on all courses of the late great astrologer Nicola Stojanovic, who passed away last year. He is the most incredible astrologer with the most precise predictions I've ever seen. What we're going through right now, he predicted it on videos. The proceeds will go to his daughter, who is trying to continue his work and is trying to bring out more books that he was ready to publish. Hopefully this will help her with her work in more classes that he did. But the only classes that are ever available from Nicola Stojanovic, with the most incredible astrology method that I've seen, that he developed himself with precision that people thought he was psychic, is and very easy as well, is available only on astrolada.com, and we're making 30-40% discount on his courses for the next couple of weeks to 3 weeks. But now let's continue. First, Mercury turns direct, and initially at the very beginning of the month in Virgo is becoming visible. It might be quite good for the markets, it might be quite good for anyone from the beginning of the month who wants to publish, to write, to be heard. With businesses will improve, complications connected to communications will improve, connected to papers, to documents, will learning, it will become, and any kind of communications and relationships generally should improve with the people around you. But very good for anything that is written, spoken, business, marketing, and so on, to publish, to put it out there. And then Pluto turns direct. Some internal or external power struggles will start getting resolved, especially with authority figures, because it's in the sign of Capricorn. And then on the 23rd, Saturn becomes direct, but it means Saturn is stationary the whole month. And pretty much Mars is also stationary. It looks like they're sitting in one space. Mars in Aquarius, Mars in Gemini, Saturn in Aquarius, holding a trine actually, which is good. So it might feel like some areas in your life are kind of stuck, that they're not moving, but it's almost like the quiet before everything turns around. There is like a peaking and it reaches a final level where it can't carry on like that, and then it reverses. But maybe because Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius, there might be certain important reversals, turning points about society, about any kind of restrictions imposed on society, that it might be like a final reversal of such matters. And that's the last time Saturn is retrograde, actually, in Aquarius, by the way. So any kind of restrictions imposed in society maybe should be reversed. Maybe some kind of new laws that can be created starting from the end of the month. and some kind of society overall in the economy. This is the economy. Any kind of limitations that were like restrictions and so on should be also reversed all over the world, hopefully. But then when having Mars turning retrograde towards the last 3 days, 4 days of um, October in Gemini. And retrograde means it starts moving backwards. And I'm hoping for retrograde planet also means things kind of being reined in a little bit. So I'm really praying that Mars in Gemini symbolizes fighting between brothers, fighting between neighbors, fighting between relatives. And we're seeing what's happening in Azerbaijan and Armenia, Russia, and Ukraine. Neighbors versus neighbors, states after state for states. I hope that it's some kind of a reversal in that direction, or reining in, or turning of direction in the wars that are being led right now between brotherly countries. There is so maybe if one is taken over now, there might be a change of direction who is taken over when the reversal, when the planet reverses happens. Plus, over the next 3-4 months after that, Mars retrograde can deepen the problems, but kind of with more cautionary approach while they're being re-examined, and a lot of truth starts coming out about those problems. But the big thing is also the eclipse that is happening on the 25th. Eclipse season is starting from October. You can be felt even before, a month before that. And there will be next one is in November. It's happening at the beginning degrees of Scorpio. New moon eclipse, something new with the south node. And it's very crisis prone, this eclipse, because it's in Scorpio, is the sign of crisis. Something sudden, unexpected, something that is removed from our lives, that is released because it's the south node, but only to make space for something new, which is Venus, indicated by Venus and the planet. And when there is a good planet, like we say, benefic with an eclipse, like Francis said, the ancients said that the malevolence or the difficulty of eclipses is decreased, or it's neutralized in some sense. So yes, it can create some crisis that happens around the world, but it will have like a silver lining in it, or in your own life as well. Early born Scorpios, early born Tauruses, early born Leos, early born or late, the late degrees as well of Libra can feel it. The late degrees of Aries can feel it. So some kind of a crisis, something new, but first you release something, so something new can be born, which is a Venus nature, like love or money or something that is brings happiness of some sort, material as well in some way. But the process involves releasing something first. Collectively, Scorpio is the sign of taxes. They might be, and this eclipse shows what will happen in the next 12 months. So maybe not immediately in October, but over the next 12 months, including 2023, there can be a big relief, possibly, or big changes in the tax system in certain countries, relief of debt of some sort of countries or of individual people, which I'm hoping for, or some big change that is starting to happen in the tax system. Hopefully not going up, but it's kind of a bit hard to say because it's with the south node. I'm hoping it's kind of a less, and Scorpio also rules people's investments, finances, things like stock market, things like, and then there will be an eclipse in Taurus, which is again connected to prices, to money. So we're gonna see shakeups. We're already seeing it with the prices again, crisis with money, shakeups with that. And we're going to see investments or savings that they might be under some crisis there as well. It's just the beginning. And because Mars going retrograde, a lot of astrologers, financial ones, are expecting big financial crisis on the markets as well. I would advise you pension, K40, what was it? Where you keep your pension money or mutual funds or trusts or hedges. Be careful. If you can withdraw your money, can be a good advice. If you can withdraw your money from a bank to have some cash, might be a good idea as well, because there can be big surprises there. And I think it might not be like totally you lose all your money or whatever, because Venus is in this eclipse. But the following one in November is not that easy. And because Venus is in this eclipse, if something happens with your savings or mutual trusts and investments or pensions and so on. Maybe there will be some kind of a silver lining, like the government can compensate for those things, or I'm hoping for that. But just start, you see big shakeups in those areas. So there you go, guys. And Mars going retrograde in Gemini. I talked a lot about that. They can be a big event in October or around the retrograde, the stationary period, connected to civil unrest, connected to Gemini's society as well. It's the towns, the cities, it's the people in them, and Mars is unrest. It's more violence of some sort. Fingers crossed, just be safe, I think Mars holds a very good trine with Saturn the whole time. So the situation can be under control, even if it's very much escalating. Like I said, also the situation between brother versus brother, Russia, Ukraine, especially on the stationary period, which is the whole October, can be escalating, but it's kind of held under control still because of the trine of Saturn. But when Mars starts moving retrograde, I think, hope that there might be some pulling back, basically in November, December, a little bit of this re-examining of the situation. Fingers crossed again. I'm not God to tell you, I'm just here trying to unfold the meanings of what is going to be happening. All right, so now let's start with the 12 signs. Aries, Sun, Moon, Rising, October 2022. The month starts with Mercury turning direct in our 6th house, Aries. So if there were some delays with work or some complications or extra heavy duties and responsibilities, they start giving results from the beginning of the month. If you've put a lot of effort on some project, fix it, redid it, things start moving smoother, more according to expectations, and maybe towards a completion or seeing the results of that. If there were some complications with your health and Mercury made you revise your habits and so on, when it starts moving direct again, you will see the good results of these and maybe improvement as well, improvement of your health. I personally was sick a few times with Mercury retrograde. Well, constantly, basically. You can hear it on my nose. So hopefully this will kind of improve our health as well, our routines if you rethought them, and our daily environment will be more manageable, more easy to plan rather than full of surprises. So you're planning, when Mercury was retrograde in the 6th house, often it happens you plan for one thing, but you can't do it because something else comes up. Well, all of this comes into order again. Or some complicated situation at work as well can get resolved, and then Mercury continues being retrograde direct into your 7th house later into the month. If there were some complications in the life of your partner or in the relationships with partners, clients, business associates, or some contracts, they get resolved. If there was a delay with some contract or some activity that you've been doing in a partnership with another or collaborating, it starts moving forward. Or if there was some crisis in the relationships, things, again, even if it ended or contract ended, things like go back to, they don't go back to how they were before, but things, you start functioning better without those things. And for others that have complications in relationships or agreements, things start moving smoothly again, more predictably. And then after that, we're going to have, for the big part of the month, Venus and the Sun are in your 7th house, and Mercury. So there is a big focus on others, guys. A big focus by working with others. Things move fast. Maybe new ideas will come because Sun and Venus join in a conjunction in Libra. Maybe new collaborations can appear that will unfold over the next 9 months in the cycle of Venus. Maybe new partnerships can appear for many of you, renewal of relationships, something new can appear in the life of your partner or can come to you through another person in October. A big part of October is focused on that. And then the other big event is that Saturn is turning direct in Aquarius. That's our 11th house. For the last time Saturn was retrograde in our 11th house, it will not be retrograde again there for 30 years. It's turning direct around the 23rd. I'm not saying immediately you'll feel it, but after that, you notice that if there was some delays of some long-term goals and plans of yours, some big dream of yours, some big project you've been working on, it starts moving forward slowly but surely. The delays get cleared off, and the hard work that you've been doing on that, you start seeing results of it. If you've been working on some big project or dream or goal, you start seeing the results of it now. If not, I mean, you don't feel much. 11th house is also the house of gains and rewards. So if your gains or rewards have been thwarted or somehow complicated or somehow you have to put extra efforts for it, again, after the end of October or from some 2030 onwards, you start seeing unlocking or seeing the results of improved gains or rewards of some sort, or titles and honors even. Or if you've been working hard to achieving some title or honor, or recognition or public acceptance of a product or some creation of yours, you can more easily, and if you've been working hard on that, you can start seeing the results of that now when Saturn turns direct. Also, if there was some complication in relationships with friendships, or maybe restriction on your social life, or maybe kind of a cooling off of friendships or testing and re-examining of friendships, when Saturn starts moving direct again, things should start improving in that area, and those blockages there, especially in your social life, should be eased off. And so a lot of good stuff. Of course, Saturn is making the last square to Uranus in your second house. It can be a bit kind of when it comes to finances, it's a little bit unstable, so you have to make some changes there. And then Jupiter, almost till the end of the month, let me just check till when, is in Aries. The early degrees of Aries will feel it, the early March-born Aries, or the 20th till 25th of March Aries will feel this very positive influence of Jupiter, but then it leaves your sign on the 29th of October, and we'll go back to our 12th house for November, December, basically. And we'll have an opportunity starting from the end of October as Aries to receive some insights on a spiritual level, to receive some answers, so psychic intuition that is very strong, to improve our sleep, to improve our communication with our soul, the invisible world as well. But you might feel a little bit more deflated when Jupiter leaves our sign, because Jupiter, when it's in the sign of Aries, all of us maybe felt a little bit better and a little bit more positive over the last few months, 4, 5, 6 months. But the very early Aries will feel it. Those born very early, Jupiter is just at the last degrees of Pisces, they'll still feel the luck and expansiveness of Pisces. And maybe it's kind of when it goes back into the 12th house, maybe re-examine something, re-evaluate certain plans, research certain things a bit more, and then soon it will come back towards the end of the year in our sign, so full speed ahead, don't worry. Okay, and then last but not least, well, not last, Moon, the Sun, many things are happening. The Sun eclipse, the eclipse of the Sun at the beginning of Scorpio. Our 8th house, solar eclipse in the 8th house Aries. What does it mean for us? And it's with Venus, thankfully. There can be a big focus on finances. As I said, it's a financial house. It can trigger it even from the beginning of the month. The eclipse is on the 25th, but there can be some kind of a crisis or some big change that has to happen with the resources of your partner, with your mutual finances, that you'll be paying a lot of attention for the next few months. Focus, and there is a silver lining because Venus is there. It's not going to be, maybe if it's a bit shocking or it feels like a crisis at the beginning, it will lead to something better. But if you put your money in some savings account or in some pension fund or in some stock market or mutual funds, there can be some kind of a shift there or some kind of a fated events that you have to work with, something connected to taxes as well as an important development again, because Venus is there. I think the final result can be very good. 8th house is the house of deaths and births and conceptions, so all those extreme, the entrances to life and into life and outside of life. So there might be There might be some focus on matters concerning life and death, birth, rebirth, conception, that are developing in your life, that are kind of fated events of some sort. So pay attention. I mean, it's sometimes scary. Oh, death, will someone die? I cannot tell you, but I'm just giving you the meaning of the eighth house. Sometimes, in extreme cases, you might notice increase of not you, but people around you, that it's something connected to death, birth, and such topics that is happening. And of course, it's inheritances and insurances. There might be a major development that is fated. That even if a loss is involved because of Ketu there, it will have a silver lining connected to insurances, inheritances, and so on. And last but not least, Mars is turning retrograde. Towards the end of the month, guys, our planet that rules us starts feeling like it is losing some of its steam. And I wouldn't say losing steam, it's like a redirection, turning point. So this month is very pivotal for Aries because the planet that rules us is changing direction. You'll notice that especially towards the end of the month, your opinion on something, your thoughts on something really start to change. You really go more internal, those thoughts. You really start to re-examine your thoughts, your internal dialogue, and how you talk to yourself, or how the things that you write or speak maybe on social media publicly. You might have to retrieve back some things you said. You might have to reevaluate. Am I saying too much? Or am I saying too little? How am I communicating? Something about correcting something about your communication style, about what you put out, like on social media, or what you write. Or some of you might go back to some old studies that they studied, some old schools that they pick up, and they really dive into them from the end of October, that they start using a lot of those skills for some project, skills that you already have. And it can be a great time to really deepen your skills with this Mars retrograde in the third house about something that you really want to perfect and master, because Mars puts all its energy into that, and a retrograde planet puts 3 times more energy in something, even though it's very slow going. But at the end of the process, from the middle of January, you gain a lot more skills with something, more perfection in that skills. Some of you might be working very hard with this Mars retrograde on some project connected to writing, to speaking, to internet, to media, to websites, to sales, to marketing, to communication of some sort, like where they put a lot of effort, correcting, editing, checking over. But Mars retrograde is not about stopping to do things. It's actually do things a bit slow, but even 3 times more focus and energy you put there. And it's a slow going process, but the final result is more perfect. So like measure 3 times before you cut. There might be some complication that starts happening in your relationships with siblings, or in the life of siblings or relatives or neighbors around you. And if there's some issue, it can start escalating with this Mars retrograde. So hopefully you don't get yourself in such problems. So if you've said something wrong, it might backfire on you. Something in the past can backfire. Also be careful about your accounts and passwords, YouTube, Facebook, all such things. If you have social media presence, because they might be under revision, they might be under more scrutiny, or there might be some crisis or correction that happens there. Just warning you to know that. And in this process also, the Mars retrograde will teach you to be more cautious and careful with what you say. So there you go, Aries. A lot of things. I think that a lot of good things, but also some more stressful with Mars going retrograde, and with the eclipse, but they don't directly affect you. See, it's not in your sign. It's more connected to your communication, your environment around, and plus Mars is getting a lot of good aspects. So I hope it's not critical or pivotal in some way. So thank you so much, and check out the courses of Nicola Stojanovic.